Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So, as per our agreement, agreed that we are going to start having recorded sessions. So, today we are going to have our first recorded session, and we shall be talking about Git. So, anyone who has installed the assumption is that everyone has installed VS Code. You have Git installed. I believe those were the first phases that we went through. So everyone should be in position to have this installed on their machines. We are going to quickly start out with looking at what we are going to be covering. So if for this case, what you need to do, you go to your anywhere you want on your computer, right click, create a folder. You create a folder. From that folder, you come open your VS Code. Open your VS Code, look for file at the top, for Windows as well for Mac. Look for file, then down there, go to open. Select the option open. When you select the option open, it will list all your directories or folders in your application. So you look for where you have that folder. So for mine, I created a folder called classes, and within there, I created a folder called lesson 1. So that's where we shall be covering from. And then when you reach there, you will select folder for Windows. And for Mac, you just say open. Then it will open in a VS Code version like this. So now it has opened. So when I look at my Explorer here, I will see that already I had a file called to do, which is meant to show what we are meant to do today. So when you click on this, you will see that first of all, we are going to look at the definition of Git, who created Git, why learn Git. We consider the setup, but the assumption is every one of you is watching this has Git installed on their machine and also have VS Code installed on their machine. Then we shall quickly look into how you can configure the credentials, either globally or locally based on what you are working on. Then we shall create a file, create a couple of files, initialize Git, do create a file that helps us to ignore, walk through a few commands, and then shall end the class. So we shall have another session that will be coming after this that will talk about the rest of Git that we wanted to cover and also that will be shared. So without wasting time, first of all, let's try to understand what is Git. So Git is a version control application or system. You find that sometimes they call it the SCM, software code management, which you use to manage your applications that you write. So whenever you start writing applications, it helps you to manage them. That you can look at the different versions of your software based on the requirements, and then you could be able, okay, for now I'm working on such a feature, let me leave it here. I'm working on this, let me leave it here. Let me keep it here, then I do some changes there. So basically that's Git. So who created Git? That is Linus. Sorry if I pronounce that name wrong. It's called Linus Torvald, the same guy who created Linux distribution systems. And it came about as a result of trying what was available. Then I didn't like the way it was performing, so he decided to create his own. Why do you learn Git? Any software developer, if you intend to collaborate with others, if you intend to manage your code as you make new changes and test them, it will be for you. So it gives you the flexibility of not deleting your already existing code that you've written, lines of code, but also you can add more changes without affecting the old changes. So you can quickly switch between the new changes you're working on and the old changes, and that is why you need it. So as a software developer, it is like a rule of thumb. You need to know how to work with the version control system. And for this case, for us, we prefer Git. So the next piece, as I mentioned, you need to have Git installed on your machine. We went through that process. The documents are available in the classroom, as well as also have VS Code installed or any other editor of preference. My preference for now is VS Code. Yes, okay. So now, with that said, let's now see how we can work with Git. As you may notice that on my Explorer side here, there are options. The first option is new file, the next option is for a folder, and the rest that you see here. So whatever we shall be working on, or any file that we shall be creating, it will be visible here, but as well, we shall be able to see it up here on this side. So I apologize, you might find that some people find it hard to see black configured themes on VS Code. If that is the issue, you always put it in the comments in the classroom or even in this YouTube video. And then the next recording, I will change my theme to be like white or something that people find comfortable to work with. Moving on, you move up to the top bar of your VS Code. I know for Mac, this might not be visible to your end, but you look for the terminal. When you go up there on your Windows, you find that it is file, something like edit, selection, views, then you see the tab that has terminal. So you click on that tab, and when you click on that tab, you select the option of new terminal. So those people that are not working with VS Code and you find that you don't have that option with the editor you are dealing with, it is also okay. You can go to your start option, you look for CMD or PowerShell. So when you look for CMD or PowerShell, then you will navigate. You could look for those commands on Windows, you would navigate until you reach the folder where your code is. Or you could as well go to the folder from your file explorer and you right click and you say open with Git bash, like you do Git bash here. That is the option. Then it will open a Git bash terminal that gives you the rights, that gives you the power to work with like the Linux commands. And then you will be able to do the same commands that we are doing here. But for those that have VS Code installed and they're able to do this, then we are good to go. So first of all, what you usually need to do is you need to configure. You need to configure your name. If this is the first time you're working with Git, your username, which for this case, for me, I prefer working with your names, because this is what another person who is trying to work on your project is able to see. The other piece is you also configure your email. So if you want to set this once and you never have to set it again, you do git config, and then you pass a flag global. So this flag global, when you put that flag global, it means that it will set this globally across your entire application, your entire machine that you want. It will never ask for this name again. It will always pick that. So when you do this, then you can type your name here, that is Aksemugenyi, and then you press enter. So when you press enter, this will be configured globally, so it will save you. If you don't do this, the first time you try to run a command git init, and then you want to push, like you want to commit, you find that it will tell you you have not configured, so we don't know the person who is trying to make these changes. Please run this command. So you can just continue if you don't want to run it now, but it will prompt you if it is your first time. But then it is better to do it once. But if you want only to configure this username to only work for a single project, you remove the global, and then this name will only be configured for this specific project that you are working on. But me, I have this configured, so I won't do that. The next one is, the other piece is to configure now your email. So what you do 2 hyphens, then you say global, then you do user.email, and after that, you write your email. Like for this case, I'll put my email here, and then like that. So then also you enter. Also, this will be configured globally. If you want it to be local to that project you're working on, remove the global, and that will be okay. So that is the piece of configuration I wanted to talk about. Then we move on now to create a file. So we shall leave our terminal here open as we work. So we go ahead to create a file, and we are going to create a file called index.html. So don't worry when you don't have this to-do file in your end. This is a file I prepared upfront to really guide us on how we are going to carry our class. So it's not a must that that file will be there when you create. So the first thing now that I've done is I've created a file called index.html, and I'm going to add some text. Okay, so I will say, this is my index.html file, like that. I save. So when I save, these are the changes that I have so far created, and they are within the index.html file. But as per our to-do, we are also going to create another file called .env. So what you do, you click on the side of the Explorer, you click on new file here, and you name your file .env. It is a full stop, then env. So here I'm going to just put some quick variables and configurations, and I will say, okay, I will do this to be localhost. Then maybe I will do a username. We are doing it for testing, so don't say that it does something to do with Git, but we are trying to really understand how to work with Git. So I have so far created now 2 files. You see them up here. You can quickly navigate from here. But also as well, I've created, they appear in my Explorer side, as you can see. They appear here. I have about 3 files. There is the original to-do. I have the index.html, and I have the .env. But for you, you only concerned with the .env, and then also concerned with the index.html. So what we can do now, we are going to initialize Git. So how do we initialize Git? The way we can initialize Git is by running a command, git init. But this command you are running, it should be within the folder you're working from. So on a Mac or Linux, you can quickly check for this by saying pwd, and then it will tell you where you're working from. On Windows, you can run a dir, then it will tell you, apologies, I don't know a lot of Windows commands, but I think the dir will help you to list all the files that are there, and then you make sure you confirm that you are within that directory. Or if you are running bash, you can also do pwd on Windows, and it will tell you where you are. So now what we are going to do, we are initializing Git. Whenever you want to work with Git in a file, you have to initialize Git. You run the command git init, like that. So when you do that, you enter, but take note of these. The way they appear right now, you find that they are going to change their color. Some of you, they won't change, but also they will have some letter here, and then we shall also explore what that letter means. So when I do get init, I press enter on my keyboard. So when I do that, it will tell me initialize empty Git repository at this directory. And then after that happening, you see that now all my files have changed. They are somewhat, I think this is green. And when you go here and you hover, it will tell you that the file is untracked. So Git is able now to detect that there are files here, but given that this is now a Git repository, we need to watch out for changes in these files, and the files are untracked. Okay, so now with that, after doing that, we can also do a quick command now to check by using a command called git status. So when you run git status, you see that from the terminal, we have on branch main, they're saying no commits yet. And they're telling us the untracked file, there is .env, there is index.html, and there is to-do. So always when you're working with Git, before you stage your changes, before you commit your changes, always work with the command git status to really establish what is happening in your Git tracking. It will be able to tell you that this file is not tracked, this file is tracked. Here there is an issue, something like that before. And it is also vital to do that before you stage sensitive settings, like what we have in the .env. That can be some sensitive data you don't want to show to users or to send to your GitHub repository, just in case someone else looks at them, they might go and access those systems that you don't want them to access. So how do we do that? How do we ignore files? For this case, we established that in our .env, whatever is in there, it has to be private. We shouldn't show it to other people apart from us on our computers. What do? We create a file. By default, Git uses a file called dot, is a dot which is a full stop, then git ignore. That is a file. You create a file called git ignore. So the git ignore file will be tracked by Git, but whatever is written in the git ignore file is ignored by Git. It no longer tracks it. So how do we test that? Within that git ignore file, let's write .env, because we don't want to track the .env file. And as soon as we've written that, you will not see that on the .env file, there is no longer an option of untracked. If I remove this and I save, you will see that the untracked is back. But the moment I put it back here and I save, it tells me that this is untracked. So which means that Git doesn't care about the changes that happen there. Now, even if you push to your created account up there on GitHub, this will not go, or even on GitLab, wherever you are managing, where you are keeping your source code from. So that is the file. So we don't want to track that .env. Remember, I think we can test before I say remember. So we can do a git status without having .env in the git ignore, and you see that git ignore, the .env appears in the list of the files that are untracked. But if I bring it back here and I save and I run git status again, you see that now the .env is no longer on the list of the files that are tracked, which means Git no longer cares about what happens in there. Okay, so now after having that, on our to-do, the next piece that we have to look at is we are going now to stage our changes. How do we stage our changes? If we run git status again, you see that we have 3 files. We have a .git ignore. Why do we have it? Because it will help others to know which files we ignored, as well as Git to know which files were ignored. So it is a must that this file gets pushed also to GitHub or GitLab, wherever you are managing. So how do we stage these changes? To stage a change, you do git add. Then if you want to stage a file and a specific file, in this case, you write the name of the file. So for this case, we are going to test it with staging that we do .md file. Then I have git add, then maybe let me first clear here. And then try to a little bit. Okay, I think it is so big. Okay, so now if I do git add and I put to do.emd and I press enter, you see that to do has changed from having a U to having an A here. And it is telling us that it is added. When you look at the pop-up that comes up, it says it is added. So if I do a git status again, you see that now it is telling me changes to be committed. There is a new file called todo.amd, but there are other 2 files that are still untracked, and that is the .git ignore and the index.html. So because we've only added 1 file, someone might wonder that, are we going to be adding a single file? No, we can add all the files at once by writing the command git add, and then we put a dot, or use a hyphen with a capital A, like that. Any of those will work that you feel comfortable with. But for me, I prefer working with a dot. So when I do this, I'm telling it that whatever is within this folder that we are in, stage it. So when I do that, you find that the other 2 files, that is .ignore and index.html, have also been added. So if I run a git status here, you'll find that all these files have been staged and they're waiting to be committed. So it says changes to be committed. So they are no longer within the untracked. So now what I can do from here is that I can commit. And how do we commit? So for us to commit, which is line 11, we do a git commit, and then we do -m. So the -m flag stands for message. So then we do a git followed by commit, then -m, which is -m. It stands for message. When you are committing into Git, but you are committing to explain what you did, which another user, if they look at your code, they get to know what was Isaac trying to do. So for this case, what did we do? We can say, okay, create index.html. Then we created a .git ignore file and to do .md. And then when you are satisfied with your message, which should be in quotes, you press enter. So when you press enter, it will tell you all those details. You can read through them, but you will notice that now our files we are no longer in green. They no longer have those indicators that say, oh, something is missing, this is missing. So for this case, I can clear and I do a git status. For those on Windows, you use CLS to clear. On Mac, I use clear. So when you see here, it says on the branch main, nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. So how do I know what was committed and who committed them? This goes back to our configurations that we talked about, the git config global username, git config global email. So here, if I run a command, git log, when I run a command git log, it will show me the log, what happened, the one we've just done of committing. And it says here, the commit message is this. Who was the author? Semgen Isaac. That is the name we set as the global. What is the email? Okay, it shows the email as well. Then it shows us all these details that we have in here. So we can now clear that. And then moving on, after looking at the logs, that's how you see the logs. Then what we can do next is we are going now to add more pages from here. We are going to add a page of contact.html. Then we are going to add another page called about.html, but you'll notice all the new pages we are adding, they are shown already, they are untracked. So we are going to put something in the contact, and we are going to say that in the contact, we are going to say, this is our contact page. Save. Then there's something we are going to say, this is our about page, about us page. So that users will know that this is our about us page. So we have 2 pages created. But from the requirement that we have here, having created these 2 pages, we move on to, we are going to also commit these. We are going to stage them. Then we shall also stage them. We're going to stage them, then we shall also commit them. So we can do a git status, and then you see that we have 2 files that are untracked. So what we are going to do, we're going to do a git add dot, then we are going to do a git commit -m. Okay, to put a message here. So we had added the 2 files and we had staged them. Now the next piece is to commit these 2 files. So what you do then is you shall write a message. You'll be like add about and contact HTML pages. Then if we check for git status now, you see that our tree is clean. It shows we have these 2 files added there. So nothing is required of us. But that we've created these 2 files, so we want to talk about something very brief. You see that at the bottom here on my VS Code, I have a branch called main. So I have a branch called main, but I can also write a command which says git branch, and it will show me the branches I have. So what we have here is we have a branch called main with a star, which means that we are already on this branch, and that's where we're working from. If you have more than 1 branch, then we can also see those branches being listed here. So the purpose of the branch, that is where the power of Git comes in. That if you have some change that you want to make, and we are going to see that in action. If we look at a branch, if we look at, let's say, a file called contacts, it says this is our contact page. That is only that is in there. So we're going to see the power of branching. If we branch and we make some changes, then how will those changes different? So for you to create a new branch, you need to create a branch for you to work with branches. So what is the command? We write git branch, and then we create a branch. So for this case, we are going to create a branch called gallery. That is the name of the branch. So when you do that, we press enter. And when you don't see any error, it means the branch has been created. And how can we verify? We verify that by running the command git branch. So when you click on that, you see that we have two branches. We have main and we have gallery. But main is in green and there is a star on it, which indicates that we are already at the main branch. We are not at the gallery branch, much as we've created the gallery branch. So how do we go then to the gallery branch and work with it? You write a command, git checkout, then you put the branch you want to go to. So for this case, the branch we want to go to is gallery. So when I press enter, it will say switch to branch gallery. And when you look at the bottom, we have the gallery branch listed here. And if I run git branch again, you'll see that now we have the branches, but it shows that we are working from the gallery branch. So we are on the gallery branch. You check that all our files still have the same information that we put in before. So, but now we are going to test now the power. So I'm going to add another statement just below here, and I'm also going to create a new file. I'm going to say this class was a bit interrupted. We have resumed a recording, something like that. And I said, so you see that now it has an option which says, which indicates that this file was modified. So if I do a git status here, you see that they're telling me that changes not staged for commit. There are changes and it says it was modified, the contact.html. But where was it modified from? On branch gallery. So now what can I do? I can, before I do this, let me just add another new file here, which is called gallery.html, where you could have your photos and everything. So I have the gallery.html there, and I've also made changes in the other file. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to write a statement and say, this is my gallery.html, and I save. So you see that this is untracked, this is modified. So if I do a git status here, git status, you see that we have a modified file and we have an untracked file down here. So then with the knowledge we have, let's now stage them. So we shall do a git add all. So when we do a git add all, you see that this has changed from added, and this is still in the modified section. But when we do a git status, you see that all of them are within they are in the stage, they are in the stage state, and we need to only now commit them. You see how they appear down here in our terminal. So how do we commit them? We do git commit, and we say update contact, and create gallery.html. So that is our message. When we run now a git status here, you see that all the changes, there is nothing now to commit. Everything has been staged and committed. So when we check into these files, we see that we have all the information. When you look at the contacts, when we move to gallery branch, it had only this, but we've added this other detail. But now This is the new feature you've added in this file. You've tested. Maybe it doesn't look nice. You'll be like, you know what? I don't like it. So you want to go back to your old changes. How do you do that? Remember, we said that we have branches, and this is where the power comes in. We have the main, we have the gallery. We are now working on the gallery. So we can do a command git checkout, and you write the branch we want to move to. So now we are moving away from the branch gallery, going back to the branch main. But be very careful and watch what happens here in the contact.html when I press enter. Remember, this new text was added when you move to gallery branch. And also we added a file called gallery.html when we move to the gallery branch. So watch what happens to the gallery.html and also watch what happens inside the contact.html when I do git checkout main. So when I place that checkout main, you'll see that already up here, it is in red, and it is indicating that this file was deleted. And we don't see it here. And when we go into the contact.html, we only see the details we had. So what is going on? I didn't delete anything. So we didn't delete our code. Where did our code go? Remember, we said we don't want it. So what we had to do was just to go back to what we had made on main, and that's it. So you see that our gallery is no longer there, but does it mean that it is not in our project? No, it is in our project, but it is on a different branch. And now we are working on a different branch. So for this case that we don't have it, we can either decide to go back to that branch and fix those issues we are not well with. If it is a requirement that is asked and you need to deliver it, what we can do is to switch back to that branch. If I first check branch here, you see that I'm on main now, but I can switch back to that branch by doing a checkout. And now where am I checking out to? I'm checking out to gallery. So when I switch back to gallery, and you see we switch back to gallery, we see our changes come back. We see the changes in here. We see the gallery.html in there. But what we are not comfortable now is the way we implement this feature. So maybe we can fix and be like, okay, now, and say like now, the feature is fixed. Like so. So we save that. You find that it has been modified. We need to really stage it by doing, first of all, it's always recommended to check the status because you might expose your secrets. Do now git add, we do a git commit, then we do error fixed in contact.html like that. So when we do that, okay, now we are happy. We check git status and we see that nothing to commit here. So we clear, then we check out, we do git checkout main, go back to our main branch, and we still don't have those details. How do we get them? What's going on? So for you to get access to those details, you do merge those details into where you want to see them. So we want to see them in main. We've checked out when we do a git branch, we shall see that we are on main. So we want the other changes also to appear in main. So how do we do that? We do write a command, git merge, then you put the branch you want to merge, you want to pull changes from. So in this case, we are getting those changes from gallery and we want them to reflect in main. So when you write this command and you press enter, watch what will happen here. We shall see our gallery file and watch what will happen inside the contact.html. So when you press enter, you see that it is showing you what has happened. It has created this file and now it is available on the main branch. And when you look into the contact.html, you see that we have those changes. When we check in our gallery appears here. And that's how now you can pull the changes if you feel that now you want them. If you don't, you can just ignore them from there. And maybe in the next video or recording, we shall look at how do you delete branches, how do you list branches in a remote repository, and all those sorts of pieces. But for now, when we look at this, we've merged our details And we can run only one last command to, okay, first of all, to look at the status. And as well, we can also do a log to see what happened, happening. It for today. And yeah, let's meet in the next